Hi there, I'm Emily Muehlstein with the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council, and this is a public hearing video on a framework action that considers modifying gray triggerfish catch levels. So we'll start with a little bit of background. So the last stock assessment on gray triggerfish, which was completed in 2015, showed that the gray triggerfish stock was not experiencing overfishing, but it was considered overfished. As a result, the Council finalized Refish Amendment 46 in 2017, and that established a gray triggerfish rebuilding plan, which would rebuild the stock in 9 years or by 2025. Next, the Council completed Amendment 44, which changed the minimum stock size threshold for gray triggerfish. And what this did was not actually impact the stock itself, but sort of move the goalpost and change the threshold that we used to consider whether a stock was overfished. So when Amendment 44 was implemented, this changed the stock status for gray triggerfish from overfished to rebuilding. In 2020, an interim analysis of gray triggerfish was completed. An interim analysis is not a stock assessment. Instead, it is sort of a snapshot of what is happening with the stock that relies on some sort of fishery independent index. In this case, it was a video survey that showed that it is likely that the biomass of triggerfish has increased and suggested an increase in the acceptable biological catch for triggerfish. It's important to note that now and for the near future, gray triggerfish catch advice will continue to be provided in the MRIP Coastal Household Telephone Survey currency, and that is because we cannot change the data currency that we use until we have a full stock assessment on triggerfish. So why are we here? Well, the current gray triggerfish acceptable biological catch is 305,000 pounds. Based on the interim analysis and advice from the Council's Scientific and Statistical Committee, as well as its Refish Advisory Panel, the acceptable biological catch can be increased to 456,900 pounds. This would also allow us to increase our annual catch limits and our annual catch targets for gray triggerfish. So this document only has one action in it, and this action considers modifying the gray triggerfish acceptable biological catch, annual catch limits, and annual catch targets. We have two alternatives under consideration. The first is the no action alternative, which would keep the acceptable biological catch and associated catch levels as they are currently. The second alternative would modify the acceptable biological catch based on the recommendations of the Council's Scientific and Statistical Committee and the interim analysis, and use the ABC control rule to set the annual catch limit and annual catch targets. And this table simply shows you a comparison of our catch limits from the different alternatives. So the Council would like to hear your thoughts on these proposed changes, whether or not we should increase the triggerfish catch limits based on the interim analysis and advice from the Council's Scientific and Statistical Committee and Refish Advisory Panel. If you'd like to submit comments, I suggest that you would do so before the January Council meeting, which is at the end of the month. And you can do that either by submitting comment through our online comment form or simply by emailing us at gulfcouncil@gulfcouncil.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and send us your thoughts.